Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where badass women like you come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of women who dare to dream and design their own destinies. This is your time for no bullshit, so no subject is off limits. This is a time for you to collect inspiration and create the vision for your life. Get ready to break free from societal expectations, take your power back, and step into your dream life. Your empowerment journey begins right here. Let's go. All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have Mariel Wilk, and she is known for her mind shift work and subconscious programming, and also her personal program, which I can't wait to get into, which is called AbunDANCE. And Mariel, I'm so excited to have you here because the whole topic today is just authenticity and owning who you are and finding the joy in everyday life. And I honestly can't think of a better person to have on my podcast to talk about this topic other than you. So, first of all, let's start by having you introduce yourself. I know I kind of already told our audience a little bit about what you do, but let's dive into just the joy of everyday life and why that means so much to you.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And like I always say too, like the people that we connect with, and everyone that's listening or watching in, like we're all just mirrors of each other. And so it's always so cool to see the people you connect with. And I'm so happy to be here with, again, Vanessa as a bomb of a human being. And just connecting with, being your own light in your own world first and foremost, right? Being a match that's already been used or it just has some kind of defect to it, whatever that isn't using, that's not useful. And so we got to start with our own light first, which my big thing is to be your own light. And even to my mom, brilliant woman. My Hebrew name means light, Mayira. And so for me, it is my absolute honor and gift to be here in this world to remind people of their light first and foremost. Because then the rest of it's just fun and play and joy that can come from that to light your match first. And then that only gives others permission and inspires others to do it for themselves as well. So a little bit, about me. So I do, subconscious reprogramming work. It's RRT, rapid resolution therapy. I cannot speak of it highly enough. It has transformed my life. I had things that were, I was the overachiever, perfectionist, like anxious, always like just this bunny rabbing it, bunny running in the, just over and over and over again, in the hamster wheel, right? And so for me, I did years and years of therapy and was like, I have Band-Aids for things, but things still feel there, right? It was like, okay, put the Band-Aid, but once it turned off, like, back into ways of coping. That was just really coping is just for us to soothe. And so I was like, gosh, is there not really an easier way? Like, it can't be me. It can't be me anymore because I'm this go-getter. Like, why is this so hard for me? And there was a point where like, I'm done talking this out over and over again, and there has to be a better way. And so that's when I really got into somatic and embodiment work. And yes, I was a dancer when I grew up and I was active but didn't really correlate that. But that was really when I was in my joy, and I was able to move my body and just get present. That's really what it is present in good energy. Is why kids are just fine as ever because they're just present and in good energy and they're just excited about life. And so where did that go wrong? Where did that shift? And I found RRT and never turned back because there were things that I was able to shift from the founder in minutes time that I had years and years of therapy for. And I actually just had a message from a girl today, which was so sweet. And she said that, you have changed things in one session with me that I've taken years and years of therapy for and haven't even been able to shift. And hearing that as a projector is like everything, so for me, this work is so potent, which I don't think that we're here to do things small. We're here to play big and to make big impact. And so that led to this idea that in meditation, it was always hard for me. Like I was just like, okay, like sitting there and just like breathing and whatever. And I know it's good for me and whatever, all these things. I taught it for years, but also I was like, what if you could move? Like who told me that I couldn't move while I was meditating? And there was one meditation that I did with Joe Dispenza. And also he's a phenomenal human being and work he does. And I started swaying my body and moving. And it was the most profound meditation I had done. And I was like, yeah, where did I get this conditioned program that I couldn't move as I was meditating? And from there was the rest was history. And I created a class called AbunDANCE, and it's really bringing abundance into your world and through movement, through dance, but also that into your life. I want to correlate not just like, oh, here's a dance class once a week I go into, and then I'm like back to my crappy life, but actually taking some stuff from the class that I also incorporate mind shift work in there, that you actually start seeing those benefits in your real day-to-day life. And then from there, made a program called EnHERgy, which is really my class on crack, that you get 7 days, or you can take at your own pace, like a plug and play, where I give you mind shift work, and I introduce you, if you've been a dancer, you've never danced in your life, but how to move your body to get things to really connect with mind and body. So as you can tell, I geek out about it and I love it. And just seeing the transformation of women is just so cool. And I know you two have seen benefit from mind shift work and from movement. And so we both very much connect on that work, that the world is changing and there are better ways to do it, but also inviting you to find your own joy in the way that makes sense to you. Because if I tell you this is what I do every day, so do it like me, I think is the worst advice we could ever give to someone, because we're all designed differently. And so what brings you joy? If we go back to that conversation, it's what brings you good energy, because, having a dog can be good energy for someone, and for someone else, like, that sounds awful. So no
Yeah.
one there being like, get a dog is not useful. And so it's like, well, what is useful for someone? And that's what you get to really listen for, the inner whisper, which is why there's a her in the whisper. I like listening to her more. And so you can really get to like, what lights you up, back to that word light.
Yeah, I love that. And you said so many things, and I'm going to try to circle back and touch on all of them. But you've been this person to advocate for finding joy in your everyday life forever. And you and I have been friends, I think, like 2 years now, maybe
Even more,
three,
but yeah.
something like that. So these guys have listened, and they know that a lot of the people that I've made connections with are either coaches or dance, somebody I met through dance. And so Mariel is someone that I connected with through dance. And I think we'll get to, because you mentioned something about projectors. So I want to circle back to that, because this may be something that our listeners don't know anything about yet. But first thing I want to touch on is just because you have always, like, for as long as I've known you, like before you dove into RRT and before you developed Empower and AbunDANCE and all of these amazing things, you were always just about finding the joy in the everyday life. Like, I've always seen you, like, you have your own podcast, and it's full of amazing, short, simple meditations. The one other thing that sticks out to me, and I think you still do it, and I don't know what I can't remember what you call it, but it's that initiative where you go out with people to some random place in the city in Phoenix, and you hold those signs, and you're getting people to dance with you in public. And so that's something that you've always done. So can you just talk a little bit about that, because that is like such a unique but beautiful way to get just random people that you've never met before to see joy in their everyday life for just a moment. So I want to start there.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for bringing that up too. Because that was when
Yeah.
I started in college, and I was an RA, and I got people to come together and hold up, these banners along this long strip mall we had at our college, where people, between classes would be walking around. And I was like, let's just hold up kindness signs. And it was just the most amazing experiment, little did I know, because people were like confused by it, questioning it, a little bit suspicious. Like, are you from, like, you were with some kind of like church or something? Like, are you trying to convert us, or like, and I was like, whoa, there is no agenda here, but just to spread kindness. And yeah, that's been a big thing for me, kindness. And again, that's always from like what we're modeled. My mom always was, just an incredibly kind human. Just people around me, right? I was modeled that a lot about what kindness can do, even the small acts. And I think that no kindness goes unseen. And if it does, it's even actually a cooler thing, even like, the paying it forward without even them getting attention for it, is really powerful too. Because we're not here to get attention for, we're here to just up level the world. And so yeah, I started doing that. And then, after college, even did it on my own. Because also I was like, hey, if I have 10 minutes here, I might as well like pull up to, a corner of a street and hold up a sign and make someone's day. And, cars passing by in 5 minutes time, I probably have impacted 100 people. And just, that might be something they go tell their, their spouse, like, oh, this crazy woman was just holding up a sign at the corner, like, just cool. And you feel good doing it. I always think do good, feel good. That's really where all this came from for me. It was like,
Yeah.
I did good and I felt good about it. And again, that can look different for everybody else. You don't have to go hold up a sign at the corner of the street, like
Yeah.
find your own joy. But it brought me a lot of joy. The beginning of that though, right? It wasn't depleting. It wasn't obligatory. It was, I wanted to do it. So I did it, getting really
Yeah.
into not all the mind stuff, but going, what is your soul asking for? And that was just something that came to me that felt good to have done. I really entertained this concept of what will feel good to have done. And that was just one that landed. And because again, I'm like, with everything that this whole idea of truth out there, or like what's wrong, what's right, good and bad, I don't know that anyone could fight against kindness. I mean, you can try, but like, to be kind to someone, I think we can maybe all agree on, which is, very rare that we can all agree on something with many things in the world right now. And so, yeah, but it starts with you first. You got to be kind to you first, that you have the overflow of energy to go out and do it for others.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point too. And that really is something that we forget about, right? Is that it, it is all within us. And then once we feel like we have that love, that joy, that kindness, the next step, and you just mentioned it was, asking, what would feel good to have done. So before I move on to talking about projectors, how can somebody who's listening to this dig into that and figure out like what is it for them that would feel good to have done? Because it's just so hard, because we're kind of trained or programmed, whatever you want to say. I don't want to use a big scary word like that, but we are not taught to think like that. We're not taught to think like what would feel good to have done. We're thinking about everybody else and getting them taken care of, but it's not necessarily what would fill me up to fill them up. So what would you recommend for somebody who's just starting out with this?
Yeah. So can we try something on? Because I also love to just like
Yeah.
do something, right? Because we can talk so much, but I'm like, I love to get people in an experience. So something that I'll do with people is think about something. I mean, even just see what comes to mind of like something that will feel good to have done. Right. That could be, and that could be for so many reasons too. I don't care what other people think about it. I don't care. I like just kind of sitting and even closing your eyes, like thinking about like what will feel good to have done. Anything. It could be simple, it could be big. And again, there might be story, well, that's something small. That feels too big. It doesn't matter. Whatever comes to mind is perfect. And then seeing and creating a movie reel in your mind of you having done it, like at the end of that thing, like right after it, doing it, maybe even during it, totally you get to decide, but seeing yourself doing it or having done it, and just kind of notice what that feels like in your body, not your mind, but in your body.
Yeah.
All right. And then
I love
coming
it.
back. Yeah. And then coming back. So like super easy, right? So if you think about like
Yeah.
when we're on social media, we're seeing all these like reels and whatever, like movies that's subconscious. Songs you listen to the lyrics, movies that you watch, shows that you watch, right? When you're watching a sad story and you're like, oh my God, I'm crying, like you are having a subconscious response. Your body's crying, your body's letting out water. And so when you're doing that in your mind and thinking about movie reels, that can be really useful beyond the language. Like we have all these wordings now, things about like, oh, I'm blocked in this and my inner child and whatever. And again, I'm not saying that it can't be useful. I had not found them to be useful for me. So I like to tap into beyond words and kind of go like, hey, what's the visual? Because our deeper mind loves specifics. And so when we can get really specific about something, right? Well, I want to get through this course I'm working on. Like your deeper mind's like, I don't know what that means. It's like a fourth grader. Like you want to get through it. Like, what does that mean? Like you just click the button, click, 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 done. What are you really saying? Well, every day I want to, for an hour, watch a video, right? And so the 7 hours of time in the week and get really specific. And so what we just did there was a specific moment in time you wanted to see that was good to have done, and keep going back to it over and over. Your mind has no idea that it's not happening. Like right now, whatever it was that brought up for you and those that are listening, like your mind thought you just did it. And so it's like, ooh, we like this. Right. So even something you're afraid to do, oh my God, holding up a sign on the side of the street, like that seems really scary. Well, go do it in your mind first. Get your mind on board with it that you want to do that. Right. And so anything that you can do that you're like, well, I know they'll bring me joy, but I'm a little bit hesitant on. Well, just start with the reel itself. There's this really cool researcher that had done this idea of like playing the piano. I bet you've heard this. And it's like just they thought about playing the piano in their mind. They would practice it in their mind. And by the time they went to actually go play it, they were better than those that hadn't done it at all. And actually not too far off of those that were also doing the mind work and playing at the same time. So it's like our minds are so powerful. So start there. Start there with what will be good to have done. And then notice the reels that come up for you. And as much as you can, kind of like let the thoughts, the little limiting beliefs and the little chatter like rest. They're not you, right? Our thoughts it's like a shadow of us. It's not us. It's just kind of that thing that's there. But notice when you tap in what shows up for you. Hopefully
yeah, no, super helpful. And there's a lot of research too in sports about that too, where they do like mental rehearsals. It's the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
And this is a rabbit hole that we maybe won't go down now. This might be like a whole nother thing, but that's also why there's so much research around like having positive thoughts versus having negative thoughts, because because your brain doesn't know, or your subconscious mind doesn't know what it's experiencing. So you can actually have like negative things manifest because you're just thinking about it, because then it thinks that it's actually happened to you, which is pretty crazy. So that's kind of where like, power of positivity and, what some people are calling like the toxic positive, and like, it's like part of me kind of gets that. And then part of me is like, okay, but this is actually the psychology and the science behind it, is that like when you genuinely try to look for the silver lining, then you feel better. You feel more aligned, you're more alert, right? Like all of these things, it just helps you to come into better balance. So yeah, I love that. And I could geek out about that in the mental rehearsal thing all day, because I use it in coaching too.
Yeah. And again, like, you find what's useful. If you want to call it toxic positivity, then don't do it, right? But if you're like, you try it on, like, this actually feels nice, and you don't have to even tell anyone about it. You can just do these things in your mind. You don't have to even share what's going on in there. But if it feels good in your mind to do that, like, hey, live in that. See how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. So the projector thing, I know I'm kind of stuck on that, but I want to talk about it. And you and I were just talking about it before we started to record this episode, and I told you I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
So I love this. And I don't know how many people are familiar with human design. And that's what she was talking about when she referred to being a projector. I'm a manifesting generator. MG's in the house for any of you that are.
Love them.
Right. And everybody's a little bit different. And to me, it's like astrology, but like deeper dive. Like I feel more seen by human design. It's more specific and less broad, I think. And so the reason that I wanted to bring it up is because, Marielle and I used to talk all the time back in the genesis of all of this. We were in a manifestation program together. And I remember you were so frustrated because you were like, I'm a projector and that's not actually who I am. And I have to be invited. And you had all of these big dreams. You were considering getting involved in RRT and you wanted to create this community for women. And you're like, God, I don't know if I can do it because I'm a projector. And yet somehow, right, you leaned into it. Because I remember, I think you were thinking you were going to be a generator. And then you were upset that you weren't. And then myself and Sam at the time were both MGs. And you're like, dang it, I have to have an invite. And I remember like when you first found that out, you were a little bit discouraged or a little bit pissed off, right? Because you're like, I don't want to have to wait for an invite for these things. And it's beautiful because you haven't had to. And you've created this, in just like the last year, maybe even like, I don't know, but I was just telling you when you first got on here that it's like you've blown up. You have this beautiful community of women, which is AbunDANCE. And I know you talked a little bit about that, but what has that journey for you been like? Because this has had to have been also a really joyful experience for you to realize that you're even as a projector, you're not having to wait for that invitation. You still have the autonomy and the control to do what it is that you set out to do because you want it.
Yeah. So I want to go back a bit because I want this to be useful for everyone. So hopefully, like,
please.
The snippet of human design, right? It's and again, take or leave whatever's useful and whatever's not, throw away like trash. But human design really is like the design of like the day, the moment, the time you landed in this world, right? It's not there's not these tests and quizzes you're taking about like how do you respond to this and respond to that. That's all conditioning and programming, how we've grown up, right? But this is like you type in the birthday and the date and specifically, and that's it. And it's like here is your life path, So I have found it super useful in my life. That's all I can say, right? But for so knowing that when you do that, again, for those listeners that haven't dove into that, I do think it's weird. It's like a deeper dive into astrology, but also I kind of think that it keeps it pretty light and just simple and basic, which is why I like it. Because with some of the astrology, you can go into the dark holes of like all that stuff. And so I do think it's really a nice place to go. I have found it very welcoming. And so Jenna Zoe, I think I would really recommend, and she has a podcast too, Human Design, and just it's fun, and she's also a projector, and so as a projector, so for example, the difference between me and Vanessa really is as an MG or any MG, you have different things that bring you joy and light you up, and you have so much energy. The world was like made for you. Also generator, like the world's like made for you. Have enough energy sources to get and tap into, and I used to be like that and run, go, whatever, and then realizing like, whoa. When I was able to shift things and see that that's actually not useful for me, and that I mean, the more aligned that you can get with your design, that's why it's always so cool to just go look at your design specifically, and then from coming to earlier in the conversation, that's how you also can connect to like what's going to bring you joy, because you get to kind of understand yourself better. And so for me as a projector, I remember that idea, and I actually was just in this community chat that this woman was saying, a lot of times I think with projectors specifically, you have people telling you like, oh, the projector, the world wasn't designed for you. And you hear these things, but it's like, who's telling me this? How come it wasn't a superpower? How come it was this like, oh, you're a projector, sorry, like, and so
Out of luck.
just shows you the words that we use. And again, the programming that I had from that day of like, oh, fuck, I'm a projector, like, yep. Whereas now it's all of them have their own gifts. And again, that's what's so beautiful at human design. None of it is like, oh, this is a not a useful thing for you. It's not actually putting anyone down. It's lifting you up on what your gifts are and how you serve. And so I'm continuing to learn that, yeah, I'm a projector, meaning if anyone that's listening is a projector, that you project out. Think about the going to the movie, right? The projector itself. There's a smaller image and then it gets wider. And so I'm here to just project. I'm here to just be me and show how I do things and the ways that I do things, and that I'm going to attract people that want that, right? That want to be in that energy. And so yes, for my AbunDANCE classes and whatever, because there's a huge dance community here. But not everyone is flocking into my classes because I offer more than just dance. I offer this almost like you can combine women's circle with therapy, with with a different kinds of therapy. I think that RRT again is definitely like therapy on its head, but also body and movement, somatic, connection, celebration, like all these things. And that's not for every woman, they get to decide that they want to step into that door. And so I think that, again, going back to if there are projectors, it's to get really good at what you want to project in this world, which is you, and then what things light you up, right? And then for someone that's like an MG generator, it's going and doing those things. And again, like there's also intricacies of your number lines and all that stuff too that can add to it and be different as well. So I want to preface that too. But like, yeah, for you, like just going and doing things that bring you joy and make you feel satisfied, that's actually your path. So everyone, again, is so different. And that's, I think, the big topic of this whole how to find your joy, right? Again, we could talk about like the things that we do and like, yeah, do that. And I don't think that's useful. I think it's get to know what lights up and in the ways that it lights you up. And the human design, as we've come to, right, is a great way to also start and learn more about you.
Yeah. No, so important. And I think also what you're saying about we could tell you what to do all day. That if you hear, I don't want to say if you hear nothing else, because there's so much value packed into this already. But I think that's where most of us get stuck because we're sitting here, we're listening to podcasts, we're learning from other people that we want to emulate and we want to be like, and we're like, okay, well, they do this. And I've talked in other episodes about like having a rigid routine, and that consistency actually looks like a wave, right? As it gets up and down. It's about how often do you restart? And I didn't understand that until very recently. I thought it was like, well, I'm inconsistent because I don't do the exact same thing every day. It's the same concept. Is what lights me up, what lights you up is going to be so different from what lights up somebody else. And so you don't even really know what lights you up until you try it either. And that's one of the exercises I have as part of my program is make a list of the things you think about often. Is it dance? Is it skydiving? Is it going and doing a pottery class? Or, what are those things that maybe you liked when you were younger, something that you enjoy and you don't want to admit that you enjoy it, or something you've always been curious about. And then you have to go and try it. And that's a really good exercise in not only like your own independence and getting out of your comfort zone, but it's also so important to see if you even like it. Because sometimes you're going to try something and you're like, man, it was disappointing. Like I thought I was going to like that. Like what a bust. Like that was awful, And so you don't know. But then when you know, that it's kind of like that exercise you just walked me through. Like you will feel it in your body. Like the way that the energy and the electricity in my body feels when I'm dancing is so different from the way anything else feels. And it's not that that's the only thing that brings me joy. Everything feels different, but when it's a full body fuck yes, right? Which is another thing you and I talk about all the time. Is it a full body fuck yes, or is it a full body fuck no? Because you can tell no matter how connected you are to your body, you're going to know. you're going to feel it somewhere.
Yes. And I love all this too. And I love the extras that you give in your program, because really one of the things I go back to and tell people is like, who were you before the world got a hold of you, right? Before the conditioning, before the programming. And so going back to what you did as a kid is a really great way to get close, at least closer to that, right? Because really it wasn't even about that activity you did. It was about how you felt doing it. And that's why a lot of women like, okay, well, I'll wake up, I'll do yoga, I'll work out, I'll go for a walk, I'll get my sunshine, I'll do the sauna, I'll do and like, I feel like I have to do so much. And it's like, you're just really going and doing those things so that you feel good. So, I mean, you could probably do one of those things and feel good and let that be enough, right? And so I bet some people want to do it all. Some people want to do one, and you get to kind of play. But I'll say too that with that full body yes, again, with human design, there are some designs that really that full body yes or no, like go to that. That's what you really want to go to. But for other people, some people are like, for example, emotional, and they have to ride the wave for a bit. You're like, I don't know that I want to do that. And so I'm going to ride that for a little bit. And perfect example, if I used to ride that wave and it would get me so heady and it would be turmoil for me. And when I learned about my design, and I think both of us, right, are splenic, which is similar to sacral, which sacral is the full body. I'm giving you guys a full body yes. That's a full body yes, no, is sacral. And splenic is similar, but it's more of this ping, like right in the moment, right away, it just comes to you, just out of nowhere, bam. And so for me and you, doing the emotional wave is turmoil for us. Most times it's not going to be useful. It'll be like, let me sit with this thought for a while. We really will just kind of know. And so even with that, knowing that part of your human design, when you're trying to decide what's going to feel good, what's going to bring me joy, can also be really helpful. And going back to like, well, what did I do as a child that lit me up? Bringing those two together, right, is really, really useful. And so again, speaking from my experience, I was dancing as a kid. I love that. Also too, working out and movement. I've always loved that. And so yeah, when I'm in that now, I love it and I enjoy it and I get the pings to do it. I get that automatic yes, right, feeling. And so again, the more you can connect to what, and then consistent. And some people are consistent and some people are not. That's why some people, I like to have 2 hours in the morning and just see whatever the hell I want to do with my morning, right? Some people are like, no, I like to have this and this and this and this and this. Again, are we program conditioned for that, or is that really how we're designed? And again, human design can also help you with that, because some of us are consistent designs and some of us are inconsistent. And so learning about how you operate is not only serving you, but the world. Because then if you're feeling good and you're feeling more joy, people like to be around you and people like to be like, wait, I want more of that. And like, oh, I can do that too. It helps everyone, helps the collective. And I think the pandemic and so many things that have been happening is just for us to literally start from scratch and rebuild. Right? We can't just kind of put scraps on top of a broken home. Like, we're not going to get very far. And so how do we rebuild? And I think it's from the kindness, from showing up for yourself, right? And you don't have to, my way of thinking, you don't have to love yourself in order to do it. Just think of something that feels good to have done. Think about it. You don't even do it yet. And then from there, see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so good. So freaking good. It's, I think everybody who's listening needs to check out human design. I don't want to harp on it too much, but if you feel resistance, if you feel like something doesn't feel right, like this, I mean, this tells you even like what your not self is. So for example, before human design, I would always say like, oh, I get frustrated really easy with things. And I would always use the word frustrated. And I was like, well, I just have a short temper or whatever, like my dad. And so that was how I took ownership of it and how I learned to deal with it, because identifying it, acknowledging it, accepting it as what it is. And that's how you can harness it and use it as power. Right. And so when I did my human design, my not self is frustration. And so I was like, okay, so that makes so much sense. So when I'm voicing that I'm frustrated, it's because something isn't in alignment with me. And so that's also what you're saying about finding joy, is when you also know what your not self is. And I know we're plugging human design really hard here. That was not our intention. We're not yeah, we're not affiliates for this at all. It's just really fitting into this because it has also been really helpful for me in finding joy as well. And so when I know that my not self is frustration, if I'm feeling frustrated, then I can sit with that in the moment and just say like, okay, so why do I feel frustrated in this moment? And what about it isn't in alignment? And why isn't it in alignment? And something that I also teach as a part of my pillars is that a lot of our complaints are hidden desires. And
Yes.
so that's another thing too, right? Is because if it's out of alignment with you, you may feel frustration, may feel anger or confusion, but there may be something inside of that negative thought or that negative feeling that you can kind of peel back out of it and figure out, like, do I have hidden desire in there? And I feel like 100% of the time there is like a hidden thing in there. So maybe it's that it's out of alignment with you because you don't agree with the person, but you don't agree with the person because the desire is that I want you to hear my side, and you don't hear me. Or maybe the desire is, well, you took the idea that I wanted to be able to present, and it wasn't that that person stole it from them. They had the same idea, but my desire was that I wanted to be seen. I wanted somebody to hear it first, or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So there's so much power in that.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, and it's so funny because you literally said the two words. Because the biggest thing that has come clear to me with the work that I do is that, and I think that we both do, and so many that I'm so grateful that people are here being this light, is to make people feel heard and seen. Right? That's all we want. That's all we want. And in a moment that there's a trauma experience, right? Imagine if you were heard and seen in that moment, that how that would shift that experience, right? Or even that moment you're feeling frustrated or jealous or any emotion that's trying to get your attention, right? In those moments to feel heard and seen. That's why calling up a friend, just being, hey, can you talk to me for like 2 minutes? Hey, can you just be on the other line, right? Or going over to a friend, getting a hug from someone, go hug a tree, go get outside and be reminded that nature is always there supporting you, right? Whatever you connect to, to remind you that you're not alone and that you are heard and seen. And again, the more alignment that you make with you, you will have people that you will again attract that hear and see you. I'm going to want to hear and see you. And it's this beautiful circulation of energy. Because yeah, all that stuff is just trying to get your attention. And it too, I won't go super deep in this because that can be another rabbit hole as well. I taught in schools for a long time. I think it was about 11 plus years, in public, charter, private. And I'm not here to harp on school systems, but there is definitely foundationally things that our world has changed and our school systems haven't for the most part. And so that was very much turmoil for me, and was really hard for me to swallow. And so with that, I mean, think about the idea of you being in your design and me being in my design and being in a classroom and a teacher teaching the same exact way to every student. It's just not going to work. And things that I actually work with people that a lot of times turmoil comes up from the school system, from a teacher, from a principal, from a student and bullying, right? But in the actual school space. And so because there's a lot of programming and conditioning, it's to control you, right, into a certain mold, like a house, right? And so it's a lot of our, again, like what you'd say, like, oh, why am I frustrated? And kind of judging that, even your own frustration, like, oh, I shouldn't be frustrated by this. Oh, so-and-so isn't frustrated by this. And it's just like, or can it just be neutral? Like, oh, I'm noticing this thing called frustration. Okay. But again, in school systems or family dynamics, right, things coming up, and we've made these thoughts around what that means. Well, if I'm frustrated, that means that XYZ and XYZ, and we get into the thinking mind versus like, oh, just trying to get our attention and like, let's just kind of sit with it for a moment and just notice. Because again, we've been conditioned, programmed to think a way about it or to act upon it a certain way, and that's not you, right? We come back to the whole joy thing is your soul. Like, if you think about the movie Soul, I don't know if people have seen that movie Soul,
Yeah.
or even Inside Out. And it's so funny how you were like, you were literally the epiphany of joy. And I'm like, I resonated so much with that character in Inside Out Joy. If you have not seen that movie, it's just such an incredible movie about like emotions. And I mean, just brilliant directing behind that. But, even movies like that, it just shows you like, again, at the end of the day, we're not our emotions, we're not our thoughts, we're not even our feelings. Like, we're just the soul here, right? We have this body to be a vehicle. And so, yes, getting to, again, what will feel good to have done and tap into that space, and just, it'll be so cool. Even if your listeners want to share with you, like, what showed up, what showed up in that moment that you saw, what would be good to have done. I always think it's so cool to see that we're all going to come up with something different. And that's so our design, right? We're not all going to be like, oh, that one thing all felt good to everyone. So,
Yes. Yes. And what I want to add to that is that if you can't, and it's challenging to come to that realization and to have that full control over like what your thoughts are, and realize I'm just a soul and I get to observe these. And here's another plug for the Untethered Soul. That's what that whole book is about. But when you come to the realization that I give the words in my world meaning, I give the experiences in my world meaning, some of it is really difficult to navigate. And so I'm not at all trying to say that people's experiences aren't real and what you feel is not real, and that depression and all of that are not real things. That is not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is, when you have a certain interaction with somebody and maybe it rubs you the wrong way, we get to decide, is that going to sit with me for the rest of the day, the rest of the week? Or is this something that I can let go of because I have the choice on how I want to receive it? It's up to me to decide how I'm going to take that and how I'm going to move on. It's like a sense of humor on a scale, right? Where some people don't have, like, there's certain jokes that they don't like, and then there's other people who it's almost, they're almost impossible to offend, right? And it's like we're deciding, and there's nothing wrong with any which way that you're receiving that information, right? If you think crude humor is not great, that's okay. That's also okay. That's authentically you. But we're making the choice in how we receive that information and whether or not we are offended by it or whether or not we're accepting by it. Does that make sense?
Yes, and if I can put it in this way too, a thing about that, again, this is just a way of thinking, but in that parameter, right? Someone could give a joke and someone could be completely offended by it. Someone could be like, well, whatever, right? And someone could be like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's not actually about the joke that was being shared. It's not actually about the person that was sharing it. It was the way that your mind was processing that information.
Yes.
I have friends that, like, when people bring up this certain topic, I get really whatever. And it's like, how dare they bring up that topic? And if we can pause for a second, again, this is just a way of thinking. So if it's not useful, it's fine. You can throw it away. But it's not even about them. It's the way that information, again, was processed in the mind processor. And so that's the work that I do, that I like to get people unstuck and free and clear, that to get them more of a neutral space of something that is said or a past experience. You're just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, it's not going to be in the system of your mind replaying over and over again about that one time, that guy made a joke and it really offended me, right? That guy offended me. But what really offended you was, again, how the mind was taking that in, of going, this is offensive, and what the mind is reading of that. So that's just kind of to piggyback off of this idea that we so focus on the circumstance, right? So the circumstance is not the thing. Again, the way of thinking is not the thing that's actually troubling you. It's the way that your mind is interpreting that. Because again, if we think about Timmy tapping a pencil in the classroom, you might be like, oh my God, this is so annoying. And you're noticing the pencil tapping, right? I might not even notice it at all. Yeah, because usually Beth is like, it's me.
That's me.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not even noticing it at all because I'm so interested with the teacher's like teaching about. And so I'm like super focused. And for me, I can get really focused in that, like, oh, the pencil, I don't know. And so would we say, oh my gosh, the kid tapping the pencil, that's the problem. Well, what if it was the way the mind is processing? Could we get your mind to realize, like, not useful to even be entertained by it, or like, whatever. And I love working with women to do that, because it's like, then your mind is more free and clear to look at that teacher and learn, or go do that thing that you want to do instead of being like, that dang pencil, let me go think about that for an hour now, like, or
go break that pencil in half.
Yeah, go up. I mean, yes, anger and fear and all these things, and go and break the pencil or push Jimmy or whatever, like all these things. And again, those are things that are happening in classrooms. It's the way the mind is processing, and kids aren't learning these things that would be so useful to be able to know how to, like, communicate with people and also, like, to relate to their own minds. And so, yeah, I mean, really, it just, if anything, I can invite you is, like, the more neutral you can be about things, right? And just entertaining. It doesn't mean you're going to be. We're not, robots, but noticing that there are sensations or thoughts, or you're annoyed by this or annoyed by that, take out the person first and take out even the situation and kind of go, whoa, how's my mind? Oh, interesting. And noticing it from that space. Just, again, try it on like a fun little game, kind of notice, like, how's my mind showing up for this, and remove all the other extra stimuli is a fun little invitation.
Yeah. So for those who don't know anything about RRT, because RRT is still relatively new to us, right? I know we discovered it at the same time and you were immediately hooked, immediately obsessed. You mentioned it's kind of like flipping therapy on its head. So can you talk a little bit about what the process is like for anybody who's intrigued by this, or maybe wants to come and see you for an RRT session?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, it's the idea that we get your subconscious mind on board. Again, 95% of you is subconscious, meaning, like, you do, like, right now, as you're sitting there, right? Your eyes are blinking, right? Maybe you're moving a little bit, your tongue is doing whatever it wants to do, you're swallowing, like in the circulation in your body, like everything's, you're not like, okay, body, work for me, okay, tongue, like do this, okay, eyes blink. It's just happening. That's all subconscious stuff. Even when someone laughs or cries, it's all subconscious. And so again, like with normal talk therapy, a lot of it is like, yeah, you're in the thinking mind. But we like to go a little bit deeper with that. And so, but also, I mean, people that are listening, you've already been experiencing it because I'm sharing some ways of thinking. And so that's also what we do. It's fun, it's light, and we move you out of things. It doesn't have to be so painful. It doesn't have to be so long. It doesn't have to be so hard. It's efficient and effective. And that's why, yeah, Vanessa saw me clearly. It wasn't even a choice. It was like I had to because it made so much sense to me. And that's again why, again, the big takeaway is go to things that make sense to you. Right? Someone could be listening that's like, RRT, I'm not interested in looking at that at all, whatever. And some people would be like, ooh, this is fascinating to me. And just listen to that. I can tell you too that there is a free, and that's how I started. I went to there's free live coaching from the founder, John Connolly, every Monday night, sometimes Thursdays. And you get to go on there and you can raise your hand and he tries to get to many people. He is so gracious with his time and he'll do little things with you. And so if you are curious at all, go there and just try it on. And that's what I did. And again, I had some huge shifts just by showing up in that space, which then led me to getting trained in it and now helping other women through that. But really they're going to take you through a process and you get to just show up. And the big difference between what we do and a lot of other people do is that it's our full responsibility to get you to where we want to get you. So we create, intentions and we move through some things, and depending on kind of what's going on, right? It's so hard to explain it depending on a certain situation, but our intention is to get you satisfied during that call and over time with how you're relating to your mind, and for you to feel more free and clear in your mind to go do things. And that's what really, Vanessa, you've seen in my transformations, that the more free and clear I've gotten in my mind with removing some stucknesses, like I have more energy to do things that really bring my light into the world and then to others. So it has benefited my community, my people, my world, the world. And so that, I know it's hard to not get specific, but really it's, if you think about these tabs that are open on your computer, and there's so many, your system's going to run so much slower. And so what RRT does, it goes in and deletes tabs one by one that your system then starts running more smoothly. And so there are these different ways of thinking that RRT, again, the founder is just phenomenal with even just sharing things. You've kind of heard me say some metaphors, some ways of thinking. That's part of the RRT process. It gives you this whole other way to try on like a jacket. And if you like it, you get to like keep it on and then go out in your world feeling better. Maybe even it's like, hot jacket, you're like, hey, you want to dance in it, whatever. But that is really, again, also what I incorporate in my dance classes, but also in the one-on-one sessions that I call shit to shift, because really it's like we take your stuff and nothing is silly. It's so funny how we do that too, right? We're like, oh, this thing, it just keeps kind of at me, or like this memory keeps coming up, or I keep feeling this frustration about something, or I've helped women in business because they feel stuckness about going off and doing things. I've helped them about not feeling good enough, or about a memory, or about a situation. You don't even have to know. You could be like, I feel stuck. I don't even know. Right. And then we kind of unravel some stuff. I'm trained in that. But really it's seeing the stucknesses in the mind. I'm really good at seeing that really clearly, and that I can do things to get you out of it. And that is my objective. And that's why I'm here. And, but yeah, definitely recommend, looking at the Monday nights solution. It's called Solutions. And again, look up Rapid Resolution Therapy, start there. Also can reach out to me with any questions. Again, I'm more than happy to talk about it, even to see if it's a fit for you. Because again, it's been transformational in my life. And so I feel like I've hit the gold mine, which is why I was like, I gotta train this and gotta share this. So
yeah. And I had you RRT me once.
yeah.
And it was when you were still practicing, like I think we're doing it for like a month, maybe. You were like, all right, I'm just going to try this. We did two. One worked and one did not work.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the beauty of it. And what's so interesting, is the way that you guys speak to the patient or the client, whatever you guys call them. And I'll just speak from my own experience is, the way that you guys deliver the language, it doesn't make any sense to the thinking mind, to the conscious mind. You're like, why am I outside looking at a billboard right now with like a random word on it, right? And the process is just to kind of lean into that and be okay with that, because it doesn't make sense to your thinking mind, but it makes sense to your subconscious mind. So you're just kind of like experiencing this story that like, it does make sense, sequential sense, but it's like this where, why am I holding a balloon? That was the other one that I've done. And I've heard that one a couple of times. And so Well, it doesn't make sense. It's so well thought out because it all speaks to your subconscious mind. So it doesn't have to make sense, which is the beauty of it. You could even be like, what is happening here? And while you're thinking about what's happening here, they're ninjaing the back of your mind, which is so cool.
Yes. Think about it. Who are the women that are listening to 5 million podcasts and running around and doing all the things and whatever, probably in their thinking mind a lot, because I'll have people being like, well, even too, I get questions. Well, do I have to know? What do I need to do? One girl was like, what's the homework before we meet? And I'm like, girl, I got you. And I love that I can just be like, just show up. We're good. We got this, and it is a weird different therapy where we're used to like you talking the whole time and the therapist is nodding their head like, yeah, I see. I understand that you feel that way. Whatever. And again, there's a time and place for that. But with us, we really like to take the reins because we just want to get you free and clear. So like, let's go. We really, this community is phenomenal. And just incredible healers that are really just already intending for you before you even meet with them, for you to feel more free and clear and get stuff unstuck. And so yeah, it is like the ninja of the mind. I had someone say like, you're the James Bond of my mind. And I'm like, I'm here for it, and so it's such a gift to be able to share this new way. And again, because if therapies work for you, great, but if not, try something until it makes sense to you, and I'm so grateful that I had not given up on finding something that made sense to me and then landing on this. And so I just intend for everyone listening that you find things that make sense to you. If that is moving your body and dancing, if it's not, right? If it's going to therapy or doing RRT or even doing one of our programs, right? If you're just like, I'm feeling this feeling, lean into that, invest in you in whatever way makes sense. I think that in the end of the day, that's why we're here. We're here to evolve. We're here to learn more about ourselves and give that gift to others. And so we shared so much during this call that like, it's, just kind of even touch base, like what thing, like kind of like intrigued me to lean into. And I'm excited to see where people go with this after this.
Yeah, I feel like this episode was definitely like drinking from a fire hose. So if any of you feel inclined to listen to this again, please do. I knew there was going to be so much juicy goodness that came out of this call. And so if they want to hear more from you, if they have more questions, I know you just offered yourself up for questions. You were also, guys, this is just how gracious she is. Instead of plugging her own program, she plugged your free alternative options because this is also how she gets through a lot of her life, which we didn't have time to talk about on this call. But Mariel is also a saver. And so I love that you did that for them. However, if they want to learn more about you, what you offer, if they're local and they want to check out AbunDANCE, or they want to be a part of Empower, or maybe they want to learn more about RRT sessions with you, how do they find you?
Thank you so much for asking that. Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram, Mindfulness with Mariel. And so you're going to see all the good stuff that's offered there. But right now, currently, I do, the one-on-one shit to shift sessions, which I have the link in my bio on my Instagram. You can also email me at mindfulnesswithmariel@gmail.com and just have a conversation, or just, I would love to hear again any takeaways from our time together today. And then 2, I have my AbunDANCE classes. I do them online about once a month. And so that's why I'm like, I don't want any excuse that you can get in there and you can have the camera off. And again, if there's that fear thing of like, oh, to be seen or whatever, just come on, don't be on your camera. So you can experience that little taste of the AbunDANCE class through the online one. But I do a weekly AbunDANCE class in Phoenix. It's either a Thursday or Friday night. Again, weekly, you can come and again, like what you said earlier, just go and try it once. Right? If anything, you're like, hey, this was cool, but like, or hey, that wasn't, and I'm not coming back. I'll be like, I'm so glad that you came. Everyone, the women are just so incredible, and so they'll celebrate you if you never come back again. And then 2, I have the one-on-one sessions as well. And then I have the EnHERgy program, which is, again, like the abundance class. If you've been liking the things you heard about the mind shift work and you're like, and I want to learn to move my body, but maybe in a more kind of like private setting at first, I would definitely recommend my EnHERgy program. The transformations that women have are incredible. Again, I put, as you can, if you haven't figured out from the call yet, I put my heart and soul into it. And so it is something that I would highly recommend. And the value of it right now is incredible. And so I would, I think get in there. If anything, just have a conversation. Send me, I love voice noting. So send me, on Instagram, you can message me or voice note me. I'm happy about it. And again, or email me. And also you can obviously get in touch with Vanessa and connect us as well. But I'm just so grateful, Vanessa. You are just a powerhouse of a woman. And I thank you for leading so beautifully and following your alignment and just seeing the incredible growth. Everything you said about me is just a mirror of you. And I truly know that you're, everyone watch out. Watch out. Vanessa's going place. She already is at places and she's going to be going more and more. So it's been such
We're all going places. Every single one of us. We're taking each other up with us.
Let's go.
Let's go. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.